This video will cover corresponding parts in the unit of congruence. Given triangle RST that is transformed by a sequence of transformations such that it maps onto triangle UVW. Part A is asking us to list all corresponding parts. The thing to remember about corresponding parts is it's the parts that match up. So for this first example, we're given that RST, triangle RST, there we go, maps onto UVW. So that means R goes to U, S goes to V, and T goes to W. So we can think about putting similar symbols or the same symbol on corresponding parts. So again, R goes to U, S will put a box around, so that means I need a box around V, and T will put a cloud around, so then I'll put a cloud around W. So here we're asked to again list the corresponding parts, meaning the sides and the angles. So we'll start with all the corresponding sides, such as RS is congruent to, well, because R maps to U, I start with the letter U. S maps to V, so then I end with the letter V. Then I'm going to list the next one. ST is congruent to blank, and RT is congruent to blank. Then after you guys fill those in, we'll talk about angles. Like angle R is congruent to angle U, because again, R maps onto U. Angle S is congruent to blank, and angle T is congruent to blank. Go ahead and fill those in and then start the video again when you finish. Check your answers with mine for question 1A. Once we have 1A done, we get to move on to 1B. Determine the value of x. When I look at my picture, I notice 3 different expressions with x in them. But when I remember what parts correspond, I know that ST matches up with VW. And there's nothing expressed here on VW, so I don't want to match the 3x with anything right now. I also remember from looking at my corresponding parts that segment RT, corresponds with segment UW, which means that x plus 70 is congruent or equal to 2x plus 40. X plus 70 equals 2x plus 40. So I'm going to solve for x, and then after that I'm going to move on to part C, where I'm asked to find the length of each of the following: RT, ST, and WU. Go ahead and do that, pause the video while you're doing it, and then check back with me to see the answers. Okay, so I found x is 30. By solving x plus 70 equals 2x plus 40, I found x is 30. Plugging that into each of the expressions for each of the lengths that were asked for, RT, ST, and WU, I found that RT is 100, ST is 90, and WU is 100. So now moving on to question 2. It says quadrilateral ABCD is congruent to quadrilateral EFGH. If the measure of angle A is 6x minus 9 and measure of angle E is 4x plus 1, find the measure of angle A. So again, I know that A is 6x minus 9. But before I can figure out what 6x minus 9 is, I need to figure out what x is. And before I do that, I want to draw myself 2 shapes, quadrilateral ABCD and quadrilateral EFGH. Remember that the word congruent means same size, same shape. So when I draw these quadrilaterals, I want to make them identical. And a quadrilateral is just a 4-sided figure. There's nothing particular about it, no congruent sides necessarily, no congruent angles, no right angles necessarily. It's just a 4-sided figure. So now I'm going to attempt to copy that again. Maybe I shouldn't have picked something so hard to draw. Now here I need to make sure that I match up the corresponding parts. I see A, B, C, D from the given is congruent to EFGH. EFGH. GH. Notice in this problem and in the previous problem, I stacked those letters on top of each other. The first given and then stack the other one underneath it. Same with the first problem, I'm not sure if you caught that, but RST was stacked on top of UVW. So I took them from the given and wrote them in the same particular order that they gave me, just stacked them on top of each other so that it shows me what two parts correspond. So now in this next quadrilateral, I start with E in the same position that I started A. I put F in the same spot I put B, G, and H. Now they tell me that the measure of angle A is 6x minus 9, and E is 4x plus 1. Now remember that these quadrilaterals are congruent, so anything, parts, meaning sides and angles, are also congruent. So that means angle A is congruent to angle E. So I can set those two expressions equal. 6x minus 9 equals 4x plus 1. Take away 4x. 2x minus 9 equals positive 1. Add the 9 to both sides. So now I get 2x equals 10, giving me the value of 5 for x. But remember, we're not done yet because we were asked for the measure of angle A. So now I take 6, multiply it by 5, and then subtract away 9. 6 times 5 is 30, take away 9 is 21. So the measure of angle A is equal to 21 degrees. Question 3 says, triangle DCE is transformed by capital R with that little c, 180. This means rotation around point C of 180 degrees. So they took this triangle here, ABCD, rotated it 180 around point C such that it would map onto triangle DCE. Our goal here is to find the value of D and the length of AB. So in order to do that, I'm going to think about the corresponding parts. So DCE, they said, was mapped onto BCA. I'm going to put a circle around D and a circle around B because they correspond, they match up. Now I'm going to put a square around C because it matches with itself. And then I'm going to put a cloud around E and A. So now when I'm asked to find the value of D, I run into that same issue I had in example 1, where I have 3 lengths, 3 sides, with expressions that contain the letter D. But if I look at those lengths and the corresponding parts, I notice that this side, DE, corresponds with AB, where there's no expression. So I'm not going to do anything with the D plus 8 right now. All I'm going to deal with is this 2D plus 10, and the 45 minus 3D. I know that these parts are congruent because I go from a cloud to a square. Over here I have a cloud to a square. So these parts correspond and are congruent. 2D plus 10 equals 45 minus 3D. So I'm going to solve this for D. If you want to pause the video and do it on your own, that's fine. These cancel. So now I have 5D plus 10 equals 45. Subtract 10. So now 5D equals 35, which means now that D is 7. So it's great that I found D, but now I have to go back and also find AB. Remember that AB was that side with no expression on it. But remember also that we said it was congruent to DE because they correspond, they match up, and those triangles are congruent after rotation. So now I know that AB is the same as D plus 8, or in this case, 7 plus 8. So AB is equal to 15. Remember, if you forgot something or you didn't get a chance to copy down all of the notes, you can go back and rewind the video, pause it, play it, whatever you need to do to help yourself. At this point, you can move on to your practice.